Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Movieloaf. Yeah, it's another fun go-getter of an episode from let's see here. Uh, Last year, I did this last year with Justin Decloux, from amazing Justin Decloux. You'll if you don't know who he is, you'll meet him in a second. But this is the first of maybe more parts of a podcast on Albert Pyun. And I this like the last episode, it's one that took me forever because I was so frustrated by its flaws. And as you'll see if you listen to the or watch the entire episode, there are a lot of technical issues as it goes on. This was part of my Cox venture, wherein I realized I desperately needed to get away from Cox as an internet provider and get closer to Cox as a passion. And so this was before I got my fiber, and I wish I'd gotten it before because, man, it really screwed me. What also screwed me was I messed up and did not record my own audio properly, and so my audio wound up with Justin's audio as part of it, and so I wound up it was a whole mess. So I just used the audio that was recorded through the live stream that we were using to record, and yeah, it didn't turn out amazing from a technical perspective. But I think it was a pretty good conversation with Justin. I think that I'll definitely be doing a lot better next time, if there is a next time. Uh, as always, the podcast is in a bit of limbo. As far as stuff like just going on with me in general, of course, we do have the movie Doctor Deathface currently on track to start shooting later in May. Might go into June a bit, just because we are behind on things. If you were a backer, specifically if you were, if you're waiting for updates or if you're one of the producers, by the time this goes out, I should have a new update on the Indiegogo. But basically, as soon as we have a finished script to put out, because that's where I kind of wanted to start everything, and sadly it got all kind of mushy, but once I have a script that I'm like, okay, this is something that we can start operations with, that is when we will have really a lot of updates going out, and when we'll start bringing in the producers and everything, and kind of getting the ball rolling on this whole kind of interactive experience. And yeah, because I'll be doing separate junk about this, and this is kind of a time-sensitive bit in a podcast people might be listening to years from now. Let's just dig in to this episode of Movieloaf. Oh, oh, oh. Start the intro.
Welcome to Movieloaf.
Oh, with some technical assistance, you can put together a dynamite fuck film. Where did you play, Billy?
Can you fly, Bobby?
I am a big, bright, shining star.
Want to take my temperature, Doc? I bet you got a big thermometer.
Jesus.
No!
No, don't listen to that man! Keep those cameras rolling.
We are here with the one, the only, the sexual, Justin Decloux from the Important Cinema Club podcast, and also author of a very special book, Radioactive Dreams, the Cinema of Albert Pyun. Is it Pyun or Pyun?
Oh, don't ask me, because I'm going to start doubting myself instantly. Albert Pyun. That's how I say it. Like, maybe try to mix both of them together. So
I say Pyun as well, and I was listening to y'all's episode on Albert Pyun, and Will was saying Pyun the entire time.
mhm.
And at one point, you just you slide into Pyun because I think he said like a pun or something.
I have to say that my first language is not English, so I have permission to completely mispronounce anything. So
Oh, I'm aware. Of course, he is also the one that pronounces gag as gag, which is an endless source of entertainment for me. I cannot describe how much warmth and joy that gives me every time he says it. So this is the first episode of a new loaf for Movieloaf. And for those of you who are just tuning in, and Justin, who I haven't really explained this to, and I've never listened to my podcast, Movieloaf is sort of a variety show. And each Each episode is made up of various ingredients, or maybe just one really nice 100% pure ingredient. And it really just depends on how long it goes. So if this is a 30-minute podcast, then it's going to be part of an hour-long show with another ingredient. But I get the feeling this might be its own loaf. So, Pyunitive Measures, episode 1, one of my favorite. I've been saving this pun for ages because I've always wanted to do an Albert Pyun podcast, and it makes perfect sense to go to the man who wrote a goddamn book on it. So we're talking about 2 movies today, and I actually asked you what you thought, and I think I originally was thinking Cyborg, and you suggested Nemesis and Radioactive Dreams, which is awesome because I love Nemesis. It's probably my favorite Albert Pyun movie if I had to pick one, which is a challenge. And then Radioactive Dreams is one that I have owned on VHS for a long time, and I never finished watching it because it looked like garbage. But I finally watched the YouTube version that someone put up, and goddamn, I just fucking spoilers for like the general consensus of this first episode, but fuck, I love Albert Pyun. Goddamn, I do. So I guess I gotta ask you, what's your like? What got you? Why are you hooked on the Pyun?
So I had always known about Albert Pyun, and it wasn't until I was working in a video store in Toronto that a pal of mine, Adam, was like, "Have you seen Nemesis? You like all this Hong Kong stuff. There's kind of like Hong Kong style gunfights in Nemesis." And I went, "Okay, sure, I'll check it out." We had it out on like, recommendation shelf. I picked it up, watched it, and went, "Whoa, what is this? It's wild. It's all over the place, but it's also filled with practical effects, great cyborg stuff, and also very much John Woo inspired gunfights at a time when like no one was doing it. Only Albert was, because this was his inspirations, and I think he had a much wider palette than most DTV filmmakers at the time. And over a long period, I watched a lot more of his movies, and I was like, oh, some of these are not good, but some of these are genuinely interesting in a way that I feel like he never gets the kudos for. And the more I read about his career, and Albert is a guy that he has done a million interviews. If you ask him, he will do an interview with you. And I discovered that he's a guy that just needs to make movies, not for any monetary reasons, but just from a pure passion place. And that I love. Those are always my favorite filmmakers. And I think what really like clicked into place was I saw Radioactive Dreams on the day that Donald Trump was elected in Austin, Texas, at an Alamo Draft House, because I accompanied my friend who was moving to Austin. We took a long road trip, and it ended with us seeing the movie there. And I was just blown away. I'd seen the movie before and really liked it, but seeing it up on the big screen, the colors just popped on the print that they were showing. I was like, I love this guy. He is awesome. And years later, when we decided, oh, we're going to show a print of Radioactive Dreams at the screening society that we do, I decided, I'm going to write a little book to go along with it that I could just release at that screening, just do print on demand through Amazon, piece of cake. And that's how the book came about. Wasn't exactly a piece of cake, but it did get done, and you can now read it.
So since you've seen an actual print, how big of a difference?
Radically different.
I thought
Huge. Like the colors are like neon. Everything is very saturated. And even the best version, which is the German DVD, is very faded. Like it seems almost as if some of the contrast has been pulled out of it, unfortunately.
Oh, that fucking sucks. Yeah, I was watching, and I think the thing that really like threw me off when I first tried watching Radioactive Dreams, which I think it's his second movie. Is that right?
Yes. So it was The Sword and the Sorcerer, and that was a big hit. And then he basically just drummed up the funding himself to make Radioactive Dreams, which is one of the reasons it hasn't gotten a DVD or Blu-ray release, is that no one really knows who owns it.
So when I first started watching it, and you get that opening that's in, I guess, Academy ratio. I didn't really pay too much.
It's Academy ratio.
And it starts off, and that plus the VHS that I was watching back way when, it was like, oh, this is just like cropped and shitty. And then it turns out, no, he pulls a bit of a Wizard of Oz, and it all expands and it's colorful, and it gets apparently super neon, which I still have not properly seen, but I got the gist.
Yeah, I love it's the doors open so basically the plot of Radioactive Dreams is that these two kids were put in a bunker when like the world went to shit and the bombs went off. And they were raised in this bunker by two men who they've been calling their fathers. And eventually those fathers disappeared, and the kids raised themselves. and all they had were like dime store detective novels. So they like, talk like, oh, we're gonna go see a bunch of gals, and they decide we're gonna leave our bunker into this radioactive wasteland. And when they finally leave, the doors open. It matches the aspect ratio widening, which until that German DVD release, you couldn't see unless you saw it in theaters. And I'm sure it probably didn't open that wide theatrically.
New. Yeah, and I love I love how Albert Pyun loves his tropes.
Mhm.
He loves mashing his genres, or at very least copying these big bold genres. Of course, you point out in your entry in your book on Nemesis that it's like Blade Runner, and in this instance we got post apocalyptic, we've got film noir, we got musical. I feel like a few other genres in there. And basically, the idea of the film is, for those who haven't seen it, which again, freely available on YouTube. Sadly, that's really the best option
Yeah, it's
for
the
it.
best way to watch it.
If you get a chance to see a print, get on that. I know that I would drive across the country right now, and I just drove across the country. I would do it again if I could go see a print of Radioactive.
AGFA owns a print of the film, America Genre Film Archives, and it's rentable. We just rented it. We just paid the fee, and we were able to show it.
Oh man! Oh, there's a new art theater opening in Vegas too.
Maybe you could convince them.
Oh shit! I'll put up that money. Fuck.
Yeah.
Shit. Come on. All right. So these the two brothers, ostensibly, although they might not even be brothers, who knows? They eventually escape out of the bunker that they're in, and they go on this road trip. And that's the film is set up as a road trip. That's kind of what you
It's not, though.
but it's not. It is 100% not. Within
It feels like budget considerations because they like step out and you're like, whoa, look at this wasteland that they will traverse and have adventures. And oh, what? No, they're in the underground for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, that's a Pyun trope I've noticed. Alien from LA, I think, is the most recent one. Not most recent, like chronologically, but most recent that I've physically seen. Put out on a beautiful Blu-ray by Vinegar Syndrome, where it's, this girl is going to go on this adventure. And what is it? It's just she's underground for an hour and 15 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Which is not bad when you have like a decent. Well, actually, when you're promised a road trip movie, it is a little like
It's disappointing. I mean, like in Radioactive Dreams, the underground is very big. Like there's big crowd scenes. And
Yeah.
it's just, I think it was just because they could shoot indoors. It's much easier than doing it in the desert. And Albert also really likes that old school Hollywood feel. So it's not only just a cost cutting measure, it's also, oh, we can like throw back to a kind of movie that doesn't really get made anymore.
Yeah, I legitimately there was a point where I thought, are they actually underground, or did I miss? Because I was missing plot points left and right. Because it's all just like once they get underground in Radioactive Dreams, on the version that's on YouTube, everything is very muddled.
Yes.
There's a lot of scenes where it's just hard to tell exactly who's who or what's going on, and your brain gets real scrambled real fast, which is frustrating because you can tell that there's a lot of care going into this if you're watching carefully. If you're not watching carefully, if you're just like a viewer who's not taking into consideration how awful this transfer is, then it can come off as just kind of an amateurish effort. But if you actually look at the scenes, what I took from both these films is that Albert Pyun is very much the kind of guy who will do anything to up the look of his film, to make it look somehow more stylish, more atmospheric, to give the viewer everything he possibly can. There's tons of smoke, lighting from all kinds of directions, all sorts of gels being used. It looks like a fucking Mario Bava movie when he goes down into.
It does. And that's why it's unfortunate that the transfers currently available are so crummy, is that like, all those colors coming in from all the different directions and the smoke throughout like every scene. And it just feels wet, like a wetted down set the entire time as well.
Yeah, a lot of wetness. He uses so many squibs and I just lost the name, but the little paintballs they fill with Zerk or whatever.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, the name.
So
like
the
impact balls that when they hit,
Yeah.
they like spark.
Yeah, I know that, like in Nemesis, there's that one scene in the hotel where they're just firing at each other. And
Oh,
it's
so good. And just like explosions all over the place.
They're using like 15 different ways to do bullet hits, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's all at once. I'm shocked no one got injured as far as I know. Like, it's just like insanity. And you get a bit of that in Radioactive Dreams. He really like give him a little money, he'll give you a gunfight. God damn it! And in the third act, we get this again, very dark, which I assume looks perfectly good in the print. Big battle royale with all these different characters. A giant mutated rat at one point as
Yeah,
well.
so it's a little bit of monster movie too.
Yeah, you got
It's like I think it's a Greg Cannon effect. The big rat that like comes out of the sewers and like gets right in the face of the protagonist.
yeah, and oh my god, I'm not going to spoil the big
Re-
kill from the
Yeah.
rat, but at the like near the end, that rat chomps down on some other truckers, and it is glorious.
Oh, I think you see like a POV from inside the rat's mouth,
Yeah.
right? Where they're like,
and the shoe-
no, and then it's like, oh, and then the legs in the air, like, go, go.
oh, it's so good. It's a very these are very much like, you know, they're trashy movies, which is my favorite. They're very energetic when they can be films as well. And I think that, and you kind of talk about this in your book, but Radioactive Dreams at one point was taken, or eventually was taken away from Albert Pyun by the
Bond Company.
Bond Company. Thank you.
Yeah.
And certain scenes were not shot by Albert Pyun. We don't really know which ones those are specifically, but it was not finished by Albert Pyun. And so that's potentially why some of the film feels a little wonky, but he also does have a notable issue with pacing. I mean, even
All his films have issues with pacing. He's a guy who like loves to throw a gigantic block of text at the beginning of the movie and then have everything go super fast in the first 15 minutes and then it slows down.
Yeah.
And I think it's just his stylistic like that's what he likes.
Yeah, I mean, he strikes me as someone who story isn't even like second for him. It's like fourth or fifth down the line of things that really matter.
I mean, Radioactive Dreams, since I've seen it like the first time and it was a bit of a shock the way that it kind of plays out and it slows down, I think it really works once you've seen it once and you watch it a second time, because that slowdown is like, all right, we're not having fun anymore. Like this is real, because like a character gets like tied down and like threatened with death. And then they realize that like, this is not really fun anymore. Like it's not the way they thought it was going to be. And so the tone of the film kind of reflects that.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, yeah, it's, I would say, actually, honestly, yeah, Radioactive Dreams, probably out of the Pyun movies I've seen, probably the least complicated, probably the most, I guess, reliant on story is a bit strong, but one where the story really works and makes sense as you like really think about it. Because, yeah, it is these two, they're basically just grown up children. They've raised themselves. They've been reading detective fiction, and they, you know, make it out into this world, and the world, as we know, is a very cruel place once you get out and you no longer have your parents or your, you know, underground bunker to take care of you. And they slowly come to realize that, oh yeah, actually this kind of sucks. And they kind of grow into men, and they get their big lesson at the end, which again, I will not spoil, but
oh, I love the lesson at the end, which is like anti every kind of like quest movie like that, where it's like, oh, I want to say what it is, but like I don't want to spoil it either. But it's such like a great like undercutting of what you would expect to happen, and it's also the journey of the characters. We didn't even mention played by Michael Dudikoff and the director of Out. Yes, and they not only do they become men, which another movie that could have been the end, right? It's like we harden, that's how we get through. That's not the end lesson. In fact, they kind of like do a 360, which is like, oh, but you know, we were happier the way that we were. And if we let the world kind of crush us and make us cynical, we'll be miserable like everybody else.
Yeah, there is a great moment, like in every sense, like in writing, in mood, camera work, acting, everything works perfectly in this one scene where they kind of reach their darkest moment, I would say, and they confront another character. A lot of femme fatales in this too, which of course trademark for the noir genre, but also Albert Pyun, noted lover of strong women, often very literal.
Yeah, you know, thematically and physically.
loves
it. No qualms about that.
Ladies, lots of muscles, or at least with a lot of story muscle. And in this case, we get a lot of story muscle with Lisa Blunt, right?
I believe so. I'm terrible with actors' names, but that sounds about correct. Yes.
The chick from Prince of Darkness. But there's this like really like dark moment that is so good, and in a lot of other movies, it might be like the final moments for that character arc. It might, or I guess it technically is still the final moments for that character arc, but like that might be the end point for that character arc. And maybe that point in their lives like leads to the final action. But in this instance, it actually, there's a little swerve at the end where they kind of have a bit like a bunch of big old realizations about themselves after reaching this very hardened point. And it hits really well. Like I was like I had those moments throughout Radioactive Dreams where I was feeling the pacing issues, and I was like, and I knew about the Bond company thing. It's like, fuck, what's gonna like, how is this gonna like start to fall apart? And it never does. Like all of the that outside influence, like it hinders elements of the product, but the final product is actually really good.
Yeah,
And
it's great. I mean, I think Albert said that he lost like 2/3 of the funding or something like that before the movie started. Like someone pulled out as well, which led to the problems that he had with the Bond company. And with that in mind, you want to be like, all right, I'll cut this some chances because I know. But by the time it reaches the end, from a storytelling point, like it hits all the beats it needs to do. The performances are great from the cast. And we didn't even talk about the musical score, which I love, just a soundtrack of original songs for this movie.
Yeah, and featuring I think 4 songs from Susad.
Yep. So Tony Ripperetti, who did those songs with Susad because he was part of the band, he became Albert Pyun's like go-to, or not even go-to, just his music composer. And you can see like the seeds of them right here. But all the songs are great, all from bands who a lot of them it's like the only song they ever wrote.
Yeah, and you have a interview with him in the book, right?
I do, yes.
Which again, guys, this book, he did not tell me to do this. I bought this on my own board. I really enjoyed it. There's a few typos here and there, but that's okay because Justin speaks with typos, so that's all right.
I worked so hard on trying to get all those typos out of that book. And every time someone says that there's one more, it's like a knife through my heart.
Well, that just is more reason to do an extended and revised edition where you make it even bigger and chunkier.
No, I don't want to touch that book again.
Bigger and chunkier, Justin. Give me bigger and chunkier.
No.
But seriously, great book and a bunch of really solid interviews that really give a lot of context to Pyun's work, which I found very helpful because I just want to know the most about Albert Pyun. One day, as I told you, I will meet that man. I will find a way. We live mere minutes away from each other. If I feel like a film nerd who like lives in LA or something. It's like, at any point I could just meet these people, but I can't.
Yeah, I mean, Albert probably doesn't go out very much because he's been sick for a long time.
Yeah,
so.
he's very sick, but still working. See Facebook
that's what keeps him going is getting the camera out. And there's a documentary about him that people have been working on it for ages. It's from the people who did the Gilda Radner doc that was on Netflix. So yeah, and I saw the director of it commented on something Albert posted, and I was in the thread too. And she's like, "It's coming. It'll be done soon, probably in early 2022." So fingers crossed.
Oh, fingers crossed. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one thing to check off my list. I don't need to make any documentaries. Got it. Sweet.
Nope. Yeah. No documentaries about him. Or maybe you'll watch and be like, there's more there that I can get out of him. The thing is, like, people always ask me, like, did you interview Albert for the book? And I said, no. Number one, because I was writing it very quickly and I needed to just get through it. And number two is that I didn't want to like it would get in my head if he said some stuff about the movies I was writing about. I want it to be very kind of like, just my personal opinions about the stuff. So it's not like big historical things with like, go to this article of Starlog where they wrote about this movie because I would never end. Right. And number three was that I feel like when he does interviews, he oftentimes just gives the same answer because you get asked about the same thing over and over and over again. So he has like his go-to things. And he was very ill as well. And I was like, I don't want to bother him with this stuff.
So Nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first off, actually, what is your favorite Pyun film?
Probably Radioactive Dreams, okay. I would have to say. That's the one when people ask me, like, what would you recommend when it comes to Albert? I'd be like, Radioactive Dreams. It's not really an action movie, which is like what I really like when he really gets into that stuff, like Nemesis, which is really fun. I just feel like I love the poppiness of it. I love that it's in a period of time where this was still like a passion project for him. At a certain point, pretty much after the next film, Dangerously Close, you feel like he's at a constant run. That there aren't like, maybe he'd really like to make a movie and he does it, but he doesn't get to like kind of soak it in as much as you would want him to. Like Radioactive Dreams feels like, there's a movie I always wanted to make, so I get to make it. And that's why I really love it. And it's so weird. There's nothing like it that's why I like recommending it as well. Like Nemesis is great. Love Nemesis, but it's also familiar to other stuff that we know. So it may be difficult for some people to be like, okay, well, I've seen this before. What is different about it? I'm like, but it's the best version. But Radioactive Dreams, because it's so singular, it's an easy one to go to.
That makes sense. I mean, that's fair, and it's a very like it's. I was shocked to see that it, or to realize that it's one of his films that really just beginning to end, minus the obvious issues that always come up, just works as a whole. It's just a nice cohesive film, and frankly, it's
cohesiveness not really in Albert's vocabulary.
Which I dig. I like if there's any filmmaker, and one of the reasons I have now 2 filmmaker centered series on this podcast. I've got this one, and I've got the one on Jess Franco. And specifically because they're 2 filmmakers who just inspire the shit out of me.
I love Jess Franco too.
They're so like, it's just so like I've got to make a fucking movie.
Why are we making movies now, Michael? Why are we making movies now?
Right now, I'm trying to get a film made this year because I had a 2 years streak where 2018 my first movie came out, 2019 my second movie came out. I was like, fuck yeah, all right, going good. And
money's rolling in.
And then,
you
know, and then 2020 just smacked my ass down. And I technically had a short film done in 2020. And so, like, if you were just look at the IMDb page, then technically I have a movie finished in 2020. It's, you know, still just a short shot on beta, but still, it's a short or it's a film. And I'm desperate to get a film done this year, but it's so challenging with all the issues, and like the months are going down. But then I look at Albert Pyun and I look at Jess Franco and I look at the like a bajillion movies. Like I think Albert Pyun did like 6 or 7 movies come out in like 1994 or something.
Yeah, I don't know what his best year was. I write about it in the book. In 1996, he had Adrenaline, Nemesis 3, Ravenhawk, Omega Doom, and Nemesis 4.
God damn. And, you know, not all winners, let's just say.
No.
But, you know, the fact that he like knocked those out, you know, shot on film, had crews-ish, like the fact that I have this camera that I'm streaming on right now that I can shoot a movie on, and I have all the lighting equipment, I have all the sound equipment, I have all these things that I can use right now to make a movie.
Yeah, why aren't we shooting a movie now?
Fuck yeah, Justin. Fuck yeah. Like and I have like a bunch of people more than happy to be in them and help with them. And I just haven't done it. And it like frustrates me because again, like you look at Jess Franco in the fucking 70s and 80s, just popping shit out. You know, he's like a Mormon housewife, just boom, 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 boom. And like I just find it really inspiring. It's like,
and he's like, oh, the next one will be better. The next one will be better. This one maybe not didn't work. We'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, like, and the way that they don't let the failures get to him either. That's another thing because like Pyun specifically, like has had such a just disastrous career. Just like anything that could go wrong went wrong. You know, would the producers take the movie from him? You bet. Would he have his budget slashed at the last minute? Fuck yeah, he would. Like I would say almost none of his movies really made it out without some form of massive hindrance.
I don't know how he found the strength to just keep going and not be like, I guess it's not for me.
Yeah,
it's not really working out.
And like he won't even let dementia get him down. Like it's insane.
I think that the happiest you get the sense that he was it canon, because that was like, it seemed like the sky was the limit, that like he was taking any film that had an issue with it. He's like, oh wait, what? Journey to the Center of the Earth, the director's not working out? Pfft, no problem. I'll just shoot over that. The plan that he had for shooting He-Man 2 and Masters of the Universe and Spider-Man simultaneously is such a wild idea.
Yeah. I almost wonder if there was an element of just like, because he would do anything, that almost sullied his reputation.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was shocked. Like when I started writing the book, I always wanted to do it for many years, but I was like, someone's going to write like a more definitive version. And no one did. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, but the movies are there. Like you could see them with your own eyes, but no, not really any kind of like Pyun fan base beyond, I feel like, there was a group of people that were very nostalgic about the movies when they came out on VHS. So they continued that with them, but very rarely were people discovering his films and being like, "Oh yeah, I love like, Nemesis 2 and the stuff that you tried to do with it." They'd be like, "Nah, Cyborg." That's pretty much all that got talked about.
Yeah, gosh, that's so depressing. By the way, this is a slightly off topic. I accidentally now own 2 copies of Cyborg because the Shout Factory edition, I bought that first, and I didn't, for some reason, I always do this for everything else. I did not look at the Blu-ray.com breakdown.
Mhm.
I just looked at the back, and so it has like a couple little extra features, and then it says "and more." And whenever I hear "and more," I just think like, oh, like a stills gallery or something.
Yeah.
And
Shout's
so
been doing that a lot lately, that they don't put the special features on the back of the box.
it's ridiculous. And then the 88 Films one, I get it, and like every single thing is listed in the like microscopic font.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I got the definitive edition now. And then I went on Blu-ray.com to try and see if there was any difference in the scan, which I assume no. And then I see like all the special features from the 88 Films release, minus maybe a couple, are on the Shout release. I was just,
That was
know
not
what?
supposed to be the case. I have an inside man at 88 Films, and there was like a shuffle that happened. Like they asked me to write liner notes. MGM is very specific about what they allow to be said about their films.
Right.
So
That
it's like
makes sense.
very difficult. Like none of the special features mentioned there's a director's cut that exists out there. Like they like cannot talk about it, which is like, why? Why
I've
do you
also
care, MGM?
I've also heard stories about MGM
Yeah.
from inside, and yeah, they suck ass.
Like the Mac and Me video feature where the director's like, "Yeah, everything's good. Great shoot. Yep, that's it." And you're like, "How can that be it? What is going on?" And then you hear like the Ballyhoo motion pictures guys like, "Oh no, the interview was crazy, but they wouldn't allow us to include it." And it's
Yeah,
like,
I've heard about like I've been told about like lengths of featurettes from other labels, and like how like this 10-minute interview was actually like 2 hours of
Mhm.
great material and how to get whittled down. It's insane, especially for something as like who gives a fuck? Like
Who
honestly, like,
cares? Yeah.
no one in the mainstream gives a single iota of a fuck about Cyborg. They just don't. Like the Jean-Claude Van Damme fans, that's about it, and I wouldn't even call that mainstream anymore. And it's so frustrating because like I would pay so much good money and even bad money just to get my hands on a really nice restored version of the director's cut of Cyborg. Oh my god, like that would.
Yeah, I don't think it exists though. Like that work print version, that's pretty much it. And in
Yeah.
Germany, some dude did the edit where he used like the HD transfer and it cuts between the footage, but for some reason he put fades in between each shot, and it's like, no, what are you doing? Just make it a hard cut.
Don't put your fucking artistic license on this shit. Come on.
No, but at least you can still see it, and it has the original music that was removed by I can't say his name, Anthony Ripperetti, and the original soundtrack of Cyborg is so good. It's all like like guitars and stuff like that. While if you listen to the theatrical cut, it's like doot 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 doot, just like a MIDI keyboard. If you look at the guy's credits, he did like one other score, and that's it.
Don't understand. I just don't. It's so insane that I mean I understand like I get the story with Jean-Claude Van Damme being notified that it wasn't working out and coming.
Yeah, by Sheldon Lettich, the director, who was his pal, who was like, "I'm at the test screening. It's not working out. Come in here. You got to recut it."
You can't do this to genius, guys. Come on.
No.
All right. So anyway, Nemesis. This isn't the Cyborg episode. This is the Nemesis episode. Goddamn. All right. So I would say like probably his like. I mean, you have more knowledge of the behind the scenes than me because you wrote a fucking book. Is there any film that's more just his vision on screen?
What's funny is he actually fought really hard with the producer of this film,
Really?
the guy who runs Imperial Entertainment, and he also directed Black Eagle. It was released on MVD, and they really butted heads on this. But it feels pure Pyun, that they're like, do whatever you want, like go wild with it, and he does, because it's like all of his preoccupations, all of his stylistic ticks, good and bad, but also done in a way where you don't feel that it's hampered by the budget.
Yeah, that's when like it's. I mean, there's low points, and they're common Pyun low points. We already mentioned the plot thing and the pacing thing, which there are like they spend a lot of time in that like hotel location.
Yes.
They like there's just a lot of like lulls.
There's a lot of wait, where's Olivier Grunner? Where'd he go? Why are we hanging out with the naked Thomas Jane now?
Yeah. Poor Billy. There's also really the acting is for the most part, I put this abysmal in Nemesis. There's good stuff. There's Tim Thomerson. There's that very brief role from Thomas Jane.
They're all robots. That's
Yeah.
why their acting's not so hot. They're not used to being human yet.
Sure. Yeah. Olivier Grunner. Kind of like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but if you just took the charisma away, then there you have him, Olivier Grunner.
I have an Olivier soft spot based on this movie, and there's actually a movie where he plays another robot called Automatic. Underrated.
Added to the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like Olivier Grunner in this movie. I just, he is very robotic, and
he has such a goofy haircut and like the little black round glasses.
He has such a goofy haircut. It's so weird. He looks really cool in that first sequence.
Yeah, where he has like the long jacket, like that was just ripped off from A Better Tomorrow, the Chowing Fat character. I think that's what. Yeah, Chowing Fat also wears those little black glasses, so that's all transposed from John Woo's A Better Tomorrow.
The Hong Kong influence on this movie is wild. And it feels like a full-blown action extravaganza. Like there are points, there's one point where not Laura Petty, Merle Kennedy as Max Impact, there we go, she and Olivia Grunner's Alex are running away from Tim Thomerson's Farnsworth, and he's shooting at him, and they like jump over like a fallen silo or just a building.
Oh yeah, and it falls.
The silo falls.
Yeah.
But also, like, he's shooting at him, and there's just a random explosion behind them, and it's just this massive fireball, one of several. And it just like you watch this whole movie, and if you just like count out all the action beats throughout, it's like, why can't we have this in most Hollywood action movies? This is insane.
Yeah,
like,
put the camera on the rocket for that Sam Raimi POV shot at the beginning, like as it goes towards people. Oh, love it.
That was the moment when watching this for the first time where I just like my mind immediately was just like, this is the greatest goddamn thing I'm going to watch all month, no doubt about it. Anytime you do a weapon POV shot and it's like going at our hero or whatever, like
love it.
I feel like there was something like that in the Chewie Hark Van Damme.
Definitely.
Yeah,
like Knockoff or Double Team. Oh yeah, those movies are wild. They're like every stylistic trick in the book. So I can guarantee you, there's like a bullet shot of like probably the bullet like in front of the camera and like going like this, like spinning as it goes towards them.
Actually, you know what? It is Knockoff. Now that I'm remembering, it is a Knockoff. Probably the best. Probably like unironically one of my top 5 Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. If not
absolutely
top. Like it's so good.
I love it. Knockoff is like, but it's also like it's what you see before you die, where you're like, there's so much stuff coming at me. Rob Schneider is whipping Jean-Claude Van Damme with an eel during a kart race, and this is only within the first 5 minutes.
I legitimately I told I might have said this publicly. I might have been to my patrons. I don't really remember, but I said I would do a 4-hour video on Knockoff. And I still have a plan. Like I'm still like always like in my head, like how can I do this like just massive exploration of Knockoff, because it's so good.
Knockoff is also one of those films that I've heard people say like, oh yeah, there's like all the action scenes are like 3 times as long and they were cut down at the last minute. And it's like I'm salivating, like, is that out there? But another thing that's probably gone, unfortunately, because they're like, what are we gonna do with this? Trash it.
Fucking Luddites, not looking to the future.
Even though the climax of Knockoff is like, it's exhausting. It's so long.
It goes forever.
But Jean-Claude Van Damme is like slipping and sliding on the boat.
Oh my God. There's just, it's so much and so against what you would expect. And so imaginative, which, like Albert Pyun. Albert Pyun, the Hawaiian Tsui Hark, if you will.
Yeah, I would say he's definitely within that Tsui Hark mold. I mean, the film he made right after Nemesis, Knights, is essentially like Tsui Hark's The Blade. Like it's a wuxia film. It's like swords play and all that stuff. And it has all the same kind of like Tsui Hark camera moves.
Have you seen Knights in as like a print or anything?
No, it only exists as like a full screen DVD. That's the best version you can get it. And I think that full screen version, it could probably be matted because I think that it's like an open matte. So if you put bars on it, it'd probably look okay. but it could be cropped as well. I'm not sure. But yeah, I love Nights, and that's one I don't know why there's not a Blu-ray. Like the German company who put out all the Albert Pyun films, they announced a Blu-ray and then they pulled it back. So who knows?
Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I've been putting off Nights because I read your entry about it.
Mhm.
I was like, this sounds like it looks beautiful. I can't wait
Oh,
for
it
it.
looks so good.
And then I thought about it, I was like, this book came out a little bit ago, and then still fuck. And that makes me sad because everything you've said about it, I think you both talked about it on the podcast, maybe,
Mhm.
like, just sounds like 100% like organic.
And
Free.
that was the one that I remember when I became aware of Albert Pyun that someone was like, "This is trash." Like, so bad on like a website like Stomp Tokyo or something like that. They're like, 1 lava lamp out of 5. Like this is he's the Ed Wood of the 90s. And like you watch the movie now and you're like, what the heck were they talking about?
I've
I've
had a
seen
lot.
bad movies that come out in the 90s, direct to video, and they don't look like Nights.
Yeah, I've had a lot of that same experience. And actually, yeah, y'all talked about this on the podcast where you would put off watching a movie for a long time because of those reviews. I had a lot of issues of that with Jess Franco, where like I remember I think Fangoria had a review that shit all over Bloody Moon,
Mhm.
and then I finally watched it and I was like, the fuck are you guys talking about?
Well, I think it's because like even Albert Pyun movies, it's like you go in with like preconceived conception of what you want, and when you don't get that, like especially Fangoria, like any them watching any Jeff Franco movie, it's like this will be the good horror film that'll give me this good stuff. It's like, well, wait, it'll give you stuff, but maybe not exactly what you want.
Yeah, I desperately want to just go back in time and smack my younger self. Stop reading that trash. Make your own opinions.
And you want to be like, why? Like it just gets in your head, and it's like you don't know who wrote this. This could be anybody. Like,
Yeah. I mean, hell, I have all kinds of opinions that I don't think people should listen to.
well,
Like,
I think it's that like when you're young, you probably can't consume the stuff you're reading about, so you need to make these snap judgments. Otherwise, like you could get stuck on something and be disappointed by it down the line. So you're like, ah, somebody doesn't like it. That probably means everybody doesn't like it. But now it's different. Now it's all at our fingertips.
yeah, I'm sometimes I'm unhappy about living in the age of the internet. Sometimes I love it. And in the case of Albert Pyun and Jess Franco and all these phenomenal filmmakers who never properly got their due up to a certain point, fucking love it.
Oh, I mean, Jess Franco. Where I want someone to do like a Jess Franco, Stephen Thrower, Murderous Passion style book where they go like through obsessive detail through every Albert Pyun movie. I want all the deets. There's
Don't
so
tempt
many
me.
bodies that are buried around the making of every one of those films, and I want to hear about all of it.
Oh man, you might have given me a new passion in life because
I mean, I've heard like so I did an interview for that documentary in New York. Like they just brought me in, did an interview, left. And as I was leaving, the editor of Radioactive Dreams was waiting to come in and we chatted and I got like so much good stuff. Like just talking to him there. I'm like, no, I want to know more.
man, I really like. I would love this, but just like I don't know, like let's say like 8 more of these.
Yes, I
The
agree.
podcast listeners don't know what I'm talking about. I'm holding up his book and basically explaining that I need to be the size of War and Peace.
I will
for-
say, I'm not the person to write that, but I would love to read the person that does.
Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't really talk about Nemesis too much.
Yes.
I got us completely off track.
Yeah, that was mostly my fault. So yeah, so Nemesis, the story of a actually real quick. So I read I think a Letterboxd review maybe I could be wrong, but what you said that there was a character who like swapped bodies with another character that you didn't know till the third time. Which part of that?
I don't remember. I'm trying to think of what that would be. That sounds like something I would write, but yeah, because they're like trading minds, aren't they, between
Yeah.
each other throughout the movie? And I was like, oh, that's the same character who switched bodies. Very convoluted.
Yeah, it's a very confused. Like I can't actually, I can't give like a detailed plot synopsis.
And there's like giant time skips too, where it's like now it's 10 years later, or is it 5? Maybe it's just 5 months. And you're like, I can't keep track. All back to back too.
Yeah, it's very you got to. I would say like for a lot of these kind of movies, you really just need to approach it like an art film or like
Mhm.
some kind like a David Lynch movie where you know just enjoy the vibe, man. You don't understand what's going on? That's fine. Fuck it. You could walk in 10 minutes late to this movie and really not miss a whole lot. except for amazing.
Yeah, you would. The big
action
action scene that happens at the beginning of the movie.
except for the like one of the greatest action sequences in indies or in like low budget
Yeah.
action cinema, which we just get like again more and more of. Our guy gets all messed up in this
Yeah,
initial
he gets like his whole body blown apart. It's revealed
Yeah.
that he's like a robot.
and he's contending with this idea of being human. You know, how much of him is human. You have all these evil cyborg characters saying, "You're not human at all, Alex."
Mhm.
And he gets blown apart, and then he's rebuilt, and then he goes to prison, I guess, at one point, or
Yeah, and he
something.
grows long hair, and he like
Hair.
meditates in a long hallway outside.
And Tim Thomerson's like, "I'm Tim Thomerson, and I'm on set today, so we're gonna be talking about you doing a mission, okay, bud?" And he's all sinister and shit. Which, if you love sinister Tim Thomerson, Nemesis, kind of the nemesis of Nemesis.
Who is really the nemesis?
Maybe
Perhaps
the
it's
nemesis-
you, the viewer.
Maybe the nemesis was the friends we made along the way.
Along the way. Yep.
We also get Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa fairly late in the film, which just weird to see him in anything that's not Mortal Kombat for me.
Brian James is doing a crazy accent, which he loves to do.
Yeah, Brian James, not in the movie nearly enough.
No.
And then also Tom Matthews plays a henchman.
Tom Matthews, one of Albert Pyun's staple of players, who said he would do an interview with me, but then when I asked afterwards, no response.
Oh, Tom Matthews.
I know.
Oh, Tommy Jarvis, you bastard.
Tom Matthews, star of Albert Pyun's, takes place in one single boxing ring film, Blood Match.
I didn't know that all happened in one.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Just one room, just like the arena they rented for Bloodsport 2. They had a couple extra days with it, so they made an entire movie.
And that's another like element of Albert Pyun's filmography. I'm just like, that is so inspiring that, and again, most up until a certain point, all on film.
Oh, yeah.
Just making a whole nother movie because we got a few extra days, a little bit more money.
That's crazy. Like that, like and
Yeah.
Albert's looking at us, he's like, you guys have cameras in your lap, and you can make a movie anytime you want it.
It's a constant strain on my mind.
Like you hear Ferrell Ray being like, "Oh, we shot Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers with like the extra couple of days we had on the equipment package."
Of course, the difference is I'll watch an Albert Pyun movie any day of the week. Ferrell Ray, sometimes not as much. I think
I am a Fred believer. I have no, in case Fred has watched, he's not. But
I like Fred Ray a lot. There is something. The thing that makes the big difference with Pyun for me is you just feel so much passion.
Yes.
Up to a certain point, at least. I mean,
I was
those.
going to say, would I recommend any Ferrell Ray films? On the record, I will not answer that question.
I mean, and I like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. Like that's a fun ass movie.
Actually, I really like Scalps. Have you ever seen that one?
I still haven't watched it. I own the Blu-ray.
So that one, okay, you got to watch it because it feels like no other Fred Ray film. It feels like a regional horror film. Also because he did not edit it. He sent the raw footage to the distributor and they cut it together themselves without his input. So it's like it's just like a hallucination the entire way through.
Okay, well, it's been on pretty high up the list recently. I will pop it up to the top.
Mm-hmm. And if you like murder drone scores, where it's like Scalps is just that. So
okay,
love
now
it.
it's permanently installed at the top until it gets watched because that does sound like my jam. I kept hearing really negative things as far as this is again. I guess I gotta ignore all the things I hear because it's so weird. Like recently, I'll watch stuff that people have shit on for years. Like this is 100% my jam. I love it. Or like there was the Elvira special day before on Shudder, and the last movie was Messiah of Evil.
Oh, so good.
And I went on Twitter to see what with the Elvira tag, like what people were saying, and people were shitting all over it. And I was like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Here's what you do: you take your mouse and you're like, mute, 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 mute.
But it's insane. And then like I'll watch something like Malignant or Shang-Chi, and I know this is an unpopular opinion, did not like, and I just need to not listen to opinions because like with those movies I was like, okay, well, according to all these people, this is some pretty fun shit. And then kind of bored. More so in the Shang-Chi one. Malignant gets a much better score.
Shang-Chi is not very good.
But I was shocked at how different my opinion was from everyone else's. And but then I'll watch what most people consider absolute garbage, like a lot of Pyun films, sadly.
Mhm.
And I'll just find myself having a gay old time.
Yeah, I
So
think the thing is that, like, with Pyun, I feel like with some of these filmmakers, you need to be like an absolutist that when you hear people talk about them, it's like, listen, if I'm going to put myself back behind them, I have to be behind all of them. And like me, as someone who like recommends stuff or likes to talk about stuff, I'm very open of like, oh no, don't watch that one. That one's not good. Like, watch this one. This is the good one. And
yeah,
you just
like, I
need
mean,
to be
I
able
would
to
never
do that.
recommend the Urban trilogy to anyone.
The
Or
which one?
whatever the Snoop Dogg trilogy.
Oh, I would not recommend that unless you're like just yeah, I would not recommend
Yeah.
it.
There's just certain ones that you just don't touch.
Yeah.
You know, latter day Pyun, he very hampered. Let's say very hampered stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but at least up through, like, I guess I don't know what, like mid 90s, it's a lot of wins. Even like Nemesis 2, like it's a little more ponderous than I would like, but I would say overall fun if simple film. Probably his most simplistic plot wise that
Mhm.
I've seen so far.
I like Nemesis too, especially when I heard him talk about it, that he was like, I wanted to make a movie with like no camera moves, but like a lot of setups, and it's like one long chase film. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and which we'll get into on the episode of Punitive Measures in the future, where we talk about Nemesis 2. That might have to be like Nemesis 2, 3, and 4 all at once.
Have you seen Nemesis 4?
I haven't seen Nemesis 4 yet.
Oh, Nemesis 4 is very interesting. It's probably the most sexually explicit of any Albert Pyun movie.
When you described it in the book, I was like, "Hot shit! I have got to see this." And I
It's
just
like his like Cronenberg movie where like everyone's like mutating and
ugh,
melting.
that's
Like,
some jazz. Oh
yeah.
man, it's one of those things. Like I have so little time in any given day because I'm just like working nonstop. Like
Mhm.
after this, I have 2 videos I have to do today. Like, I'm just like nonstop. So like anytime I can fit in another Pyun, I do. But I just my
But you have
desk
all those new Blu-rays that are coming in too that you have to watch, right? You do watch all of them, don't you?
coming in is very strong. But yeah, I actually I have like a massive pile. I got all my new Vinegar Syndromes. Got that new Ricky O release. I got all this shit, like all the partner labels from Vinegar Syndrome. I've got 2 copies of fucking Cyborg on my desk. It's just it's never ending. And every day it's like I watch less movies, but I have more.
Mhm.
Um,
That's how it works.
uh, I get I don't know that there's like much to say about Nemesis
Yeah,
because
other than
it's
like it's big,
so
it's operatic, it's wild.
yeah, like the plot is convoluted, but it's a straightforward concept. And it really just boils down to we have a bunch of mostly pretty people
Mhm.
uh, doing really amazing action sequences. With that
Backflipping
great,
off waterfalls and shooting a rocket launcher at
uh,
a guy.
and it's also it's so to this movie's credit that the first really bad special effect is in the last like 5 minutes. Um,
Wait. Are you about to say that the stop motion Tim Thomerson is a bad special effect?
maybe like one shot. One shot's a little.
I love that. And the way that it goes from like stop motion to like just like the head that they had, and you see like Olivia Grundy punching it.
Yeah,
Love it.
and then I love that they obviously they probably wanted to like pull off all of Olivia Grundy's face, but they could not. They probably just couldn't get that right.
Oh yeah,
And so
doesn't he just have like a big
scalp-
bandage thing at the end where he's
yeah.
like, "I'll be okay." And
Well, it
it's
just
just
looks
like
like in the fight scene because he hits his head on the
right, and it's supposed to like pull it off when he's holding on to the
yeah,
yeah.
pulls his scalp. He gets scalped. Spoilers. This doesn't really matter. I feel like Radioactive Dreams you can spoil. You can't really spoil
You
Nemesis.
can't really spoil Nemesis because like action scenes. It's like you
Yeah.
experience it.
But he gets scalped, and it just looks like he's just a really weird bald guy. If this and it's cool, but it's like they totally wanted to just rip his face off. And then I love that at the end he's all bandaged up, and they have this moment where oh shoot the other J name in the maybe Julie. I don't remember. I don't remember all. There's so many fucking names. Anyway, the computer lady, the fucking
Mhm.
computer lady. She says, "Are you banging?
Yeah, Jared, isn't it? Marjorie Monaghan.
Is it Jared? I thought Jared or is Jared was
Maybe
the
I'm getting or Julian. Oh my God, there's so many J names in this.
tip to screenwriters. Any chance you can, do not give characters the same letter of the alphabet for their name. Like they should all start with different letters as much
Unless
as
their name is Brick Bardo, which Albert Pyun names a character in almost all of his movies.
starting in Radioactive Dreams. Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
So like she says, "Are you crying over there?" And you can kind of see his like lip quivering a bit. And my initial thought, and I felt really mean thinking this, but it was like, oh, so that's how you get emotion out of Olivier Grunner. You just bandage his face.
Cover his face. You can read into, whatever you want into his Invisible Man style. He should be wearing the little black sunglasses like over the bandages.
Yeah, it also there's a certain like it's not a bad movie, but it does have certain hallmarks of what you consider a bad movie that kind of up the entertainment value. Like it's nothing bad in the objective, like this is a bad moment sense. It's all just this adds to the overall aura of the film. Like, yeah, would Olivier Grunner taking some acting lessons before doing this movie maybe help? Possibly, but at the same time, it's such just like it's like a fine marinade for the film, and it gives it a certain texture that you wouldn't otherwise get. The scene where he's in like a town in some I don't know where the fuck he is. He's like it looks like he's in Mexico or something. And he has his new haircut, and he's drinking blank beer, and he has his dog, R.I.P.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, dog don't make it.
Yeah, dog lasts like 3 minutes. Dog don't last very long.
I don't even know what the point of having that dog was, other than it's a trope that you would see. But the two lady cyborgs come in and talk to him, and they're like weird mini skirts, and it feels like the whole feel of this film is basically like 90s comic book. All those comic books from the 90s.
You imagine like black and white. The pages are a little thin as you're reading it, maybe a little too white as well.
Yeah, it's like this indie extreme comic book that you would just wind up with, that you'd buy for like 50 cents nowadays from some random comic book store. And like, if you want to see that aesthetic on film, here you go. Like it's perfectly lit, it's perfectly violent, it's perfectly shot, like everything's dynamic. Like every single shot in this movie like has some dynamic element to it. If he could add dust or smoke or water or whatever to the film, he will do that. And that really is obvious in the shootout in the motel, where, by the way, he shoots through the floor, total anime move. Shoots through the floor multiple times and just falls through several stories of the building. I think into the sewer, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm trying to think. I think maybe he just lands on the bottom floor, doesn't he?
It might. I feel like it was like a really dark passageway, but I could be misremembering now.
I love that shot of Olivier Grunner falling through the floors.
Yeah,
the camera under him, and he's like, "Oh, so good."
Yeah, it's like watching a magic trick. It's stellar. But right before that, you get this big shootout that is the most just unnecessarily explosive shootout in a room of all time. Whole walls.
Well, I think they're just the people firing are standing like 5 feet away from each other, and the joke is they're robots, so they're just the walls are exploding. They're being riddled by bullets the entire time.
Yeah, you have as I mentioned, basically up top, there's squibs. There's basically. So for those that don't know how special effects work in gunfights. You have squibs, which I think most people know what a squib is. It's just a little explosive that you attach to a person or an object, and it has like a little bit of basically gunpowder inside, and it blows up, but it's so tiny that it just creates what it looks like, a bullet effect. And then also you have these basic paintballs. This is essentially what they are. And they can be full of either dust or zirconium something or another. I'm not good with chemicals. I didn't do well in chemistry in high school or anywhere in high school. Basically a little mini explosive that creates sparks. And you special gun for it. I cannot remember the name, but it's essentially it's a paintball gun. And to get the hitting something and dust pops off, you shoot the dust balls, and if you want to then you shoot the balls, and if you just want to blow a through something, it's a wide quib. And either way, it looks in rad. And like these are expensive things. You get a pyrotechnician on set to do them. Like you can't even do the dust, but to get and use squibs, use the zero things, you have to be a licensed pyrotechnician, and to hire that. The actual squibs and balls cost money. Like it's a very, challenging deal. And like two actors getting riddled webs, the background just all spar dust and explosions. It's insane. It's absolutely, and the fact like this is definitely the moment in the film the most just what the whole shit, just everything's being shot up moment. But the whole like the film is filled with these sequences where, shots are hitting various objects. Like there's very little, a lot of low budget and no budget. You'll see like a lot of like firing of guns, and there's no flash from the barrel. It doesn't like obviously hit anything. Like they only be like throwing some sound effects, but you don't see like the dust popping off of objects or metal walls sparking everywhere, shit getting blown to pieces. And by having all these things and not succumbing to laziness, and like putting the budget where it needs to go, mm, it shows that he wants that nature in the film.
I mean, for people that don't know as well, like it's so difficult to clean up, and that's why people don't do it.
So it's a fucking mess. Like it's like with blood. Like people always complain about CGI blood, and rightly so. Look good, but like, it's a fucking if a wick goes through a room and blasts a bunch of guys in the head and have blood squibs going on everywhere, chances they're gonna need to do another take because it's very complicated to do. In order to do that other take, they're gonna up the entire room, like every piece of wall that got out, every fine vase that got exploded by a bullet, gotta pop in a new one, and that gets very expensive and very time consuming, which in and of itself is also very expensive, very fast. So to see all this again, very tactile action throughout the film, like it's like a bygone era now, but also it just makes the whole film all that more exciting and entertaining. So I love Nemesis so much. I would say like now that like after talking about these, Radioactive Dreams is probably the better film as a story, and as a cohesive piece. But Nemesis, like it really, like as you say in your book, it's what could have been given like if he hadn't been stifled by all these different forces throughout his career. And it definitely, like I imagining the world where Albert Pyun, like Nemesis took off, maybe like Cyborg getting tempered and whatever. One of these early movies like shot up to the stratosphere, and he actually got the opportunities that he deserved and was given full control, or at least standard control, like even that. Imagining that world is instantly depressing because I feel like we missed out on this massive career. Like Albert Pyun, and this could go different ways for different people. I personally, I have like this soft spot for Michael Bay. His movies. And to me, like Albert Pyun should have been like the Michael Bay before there was a Michael Bay. He should have been the one who was getting the keys to all the Jerry Bruckheimer vehicles, and should have been the one like doing the big fucking spectacle movies, because he fucking had the eye, or has the eye, and just for whatever reason, I don't know if bad luck, his inability to negotiate, racism. There's all kinds of reasons that we don't have definitively that just work out, and that's why I wanted to do Punitive Measures, because goddamn, if we can just get like a few people on board the Pyun train, awesome. That's all, because he does so much more respect that he still doesn't fucking get. Everybody's just like, oh, I mean, Captain America.
Yeah, Captain America was bad. And you want to be like, that he, like, any action in that movie, he shot on his own dime because the studio was like, we're not paying for this. And he's like, there's no movie.
Yeah. Dude faced insurmountable odds. Rarely came out unscathed, but always got back up and always continued to fight on. And there's something to be said about that kind of character, especially in filmmaking. Few people can make it out of that many disaster productions and still want to make more movies, still have a love for cinema. That Pyun, just the fuck Bamf himself, who could totally be on this podcast if he just.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he could get him.
Just he podcast just one chance. Different. Anyway, with that being, take up too much more of your time. We've been talking for a little while now. We're there when I have like a time stamp in front of me. But this has been measures. Justin, anything else you would like to add about these two fantastic points?
No, not really.
Oh, I see. You've written the book. You know enough about it.
Buy my book. Buy my book. Radioactive Dreams. You can get it on Amazon.com.ca.uk. It's on all of those. And listen to the Important Cinema Club, No Such Thing as a Bad Movie, and the Bay Street Video Podcast. And subscribe Film Trap on YouTube. Oh, Gold Ninja Video too. Too much stuff. Not enough though.
Before we leave, by the way, Teddy Bomb. I watched your second feature. I own it. I just time, but I did make time. And that moment where you put Nemesis on the shelf just like touched my heart in a special way. And also a film. So guys, go to Gold Ninja Video, buy all kinds of stuff. So don't forget to add in Bomb, because it gets a thumbs up. And I'll talk more about that in a video in the future, probably called "The Importance of Justin Decloux." I feel like that'd be great.
Ooh, I like that title. Yeah.
That's a little future for you kids. That's that being said, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, all that. Don't forget to subscribe on your choice to Movieloaf, as well as my channel called Michael Keene, because I like to be confused with guitarists. And until next time, guys, movie.